people ask me questions and I'm like, oh, you think my life is so hard, and it's really not. Like, we just have certain routines, certain things that we've gotten used to doing. It's not like I'm still stuck in the research phase of, like, for example, raw milk. It's just something we get now. It's no big deal. I know the farmer, we get it throughout the week. We have like the scheduled times. The bread's just the same recipe I'm always making. You know, I know what I do with babies. I think there's a certain level of confidence with all of that. And so it's not, once you get really used to it, it's just really not very difficult.
Aloha, everyone. Welcome to All Things Possible. We are excited about today's conversation. We are bringing in homeschooling mom, Lisa Bass, who is a sourdough guru. If you have been fearful of trying to make this, I think she has endless recipes, tips, encouragement, and even, books and courses and whatnot to help you in the kitchen. Lisa seems full of joy, and I'm so excited to share this conversation with you. Talk about homeschooling, cooking, eating well, and raising a healthy family. So let's dive on in.
So Lisa, can you tell us like a little bit about your life, who you are, and why do you choose to homestead and raise such a large family? And when it's not that common in today's culture to have large families. I just want to hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah, it's hard to put that into words. I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called Hannah's Children, and it's kind of talking to mothers that have over like 5 kids, I think is what she chose for the interview parameters. But trying to get that like boiled down, like, why is it that some people decide to do this crazy thing? I believe children are a blessing, and it's just never, like, we've never felt like, oh, we don't want any more of that. So we've always just, since we've been married, we got married 17 years ago. Our oldest is 16. So ever since then, it's just kind of been like the mission of our marriage. Not like the only thing, but we've definitely accepted them as they've came. And so as far as why we homestead, so currently we're living in an in-between house because we're building on our farm. So it's crazy because right now we're in town, but
Wow.
I love homesteading and cooking from scratch. Even when we've lived in town, this has always been something I've been interested in for practical reasons. And then also there's just something really satisfying about learning new things and then putting that skill into practice. So I guess that's it all boiled down.
I love it. We have 4 children, and I think it's just such a joy, and it's just continually gets more and more fun. And welcoming our 4th into the world, Alea, is our daughter, and she's just been a complete joy.
You can't imagine life without them.
I kind of want to come hang out with you guys and just feel the what's it feel like at your guys' home, help paint the picture of home life.
It's obviously not always like perfectly peaceful and everybody's happy and getting along all the time. But there are certain things that you experience as a large family that you just don't necessarily experience. Certain dynamics that you might not even realize are going to happen. Like certain things get a lot easier. I think that's something people don't realize either. Like we take, 3 kids is this hard, times that by 3, and that's just literally insane. And it's not quite like that because you grow with each one. So there's a lot of things that you learn just by having so many children. And then the dynamics between the kids, it's just all very unique.
I feel like in motherhood across the board, there's a really dark kind of narrative and mindset that a lot of moms struggle with, and they might not even realize it. But, I am engaged on social media, and I see kind of these memes and kind of funny things that they kind of are a little bit funny, but then when you think of like the root of where they're coming from, they're actually kind of dark. And
it's not celebrating
it's
family or motherhood.
It's like almost like people are just stuck in this dark mindset around motherhood.
Yeah, I think that's always something that you have to fight against. Like, even as a mom with many kids, there's still those times where you're like, you can forget the reason why and you can believe some of those cultural lies. It's not like it's always just easy because, as you know, like they take a lot of sacrifice. And so it's a constant thing of like laying down your life and serving. It's not always just like, this is the picture, this is the vision for it. That's the overarching theme of everything. But then there's the day to day where it's sometimes, yeah, it's a struggle. It comes at you from every angle, that it's bad, that it's not joyful.
I feel like that, there's having your why is so important. I feel like, because, you all homeschool. Like, I saw that y'all promote that, and like we homeschool as well. But there's times where you're like, man, it would just be so much easier if we just rushed the kids off and they could go to school and we get so much more work done. We'd have peace, and like those lies can kind of creep in, but you have to be rooted in your why of like understanding, like as soon as I remember the why, there's like no doubt in my mind, like our children need to be at home with us, because we are choosing specifically to protect them and to prepare them and not be exposed to certain things that I know are probably going to impact them in the wrong direction for a lifetime. For us, it's a lot of like, hey, on like kind of digesting the day together, and remembering the call that God has put on our life, and remembering the call of like, let's make sure we're healthy so that we can exude and bring our family in to a peaceful place, a place that we can raise our children with intentionality.
It's, for us, it is like if somebody's going through something like a little bit mentally, where you're kind of down, if both of us are that way at one time, that's not good. But usually, one of us is still like upbeat and for this. And no matter what, there's never been a moment. I mean, I think I can truly say this, where we've been like, oh, we should maybe consider, rethinking what we've been convicted about since the day we got married. There hasn't been that. So there's been times where we've been like, we're very confident, this is going great. Then there's been times where we're like, oh boy, like maybe not. But we still have been committed to it. I don't think there's definitely never been a moment where we've decided, oh, maybe we'll just send them to school, or whatever the conviction may be.
Yeah, I mean, I personally am never thinking of sending them to school. I think Adam has a different mindset there, maybe. But I'm more
no,
of
it like creeps in sometimes, where I'm like, oh, no, but then I'm like, no.
It's
And
those
to
younger
me,
years, though, because like your oldest
Yeah.
is 10, so you don't have anybody on the other side of it. Like, and when I say on the other side of it, I mean like basically done schooling them. Whereas I have a 16-year-old who will be 17 this year. And I've seen the results of it. And I've seen that they end up learning all the things, not all the things, because we're trying to train lifelong learners who will continue to learn forever. So you don't have 18 years to get it done. It's a forever thing. But I find that my kids who are, toward the end of traditional school, if we're going to do like a 12-year, school thing, they know what they should. They know how to read, write, do math. They know be way beyond that. And so there's definitely a certain level of confidence that you see your kids kind of moving through all the motions, even despite like of what you do. Like they still learn things, even though you don't have to necessarily pour every single thing into their brain. You can give them good tools, good books, give them the resources they need, provide a good environment for it. And once you see that, the pressure's kind of off.
I love that. Yeah, I think for me too, like I think when I think of education, I think that mom and dad are the number one people to, instill that in our lives. And in the public school setting, and even a lot of the private school settings, like the way education is being approached, I think we're missing like the mark on some of the most important things that we need to thrive in adulthood, work through conflict, communicate well, adapt and be creative. And, maybe a little of that is taught in school, but I think for the most part, like there's some major key points. And like you look at the results of society and how things are turning out, and there's a lot of need and kind of challenge in how society is playing out. I think it's a beautiful mission to be homeschooling and to inspire more people to do that. promote that in a sense? Like, what's kind of your home life like? How do you kind of run the day, and how does everything play out? And what do you enjoy throughout the day with your children?
So for me, when I was in your guys' situation, like the kids were 10 and under, I had 4 of them. My husband wasn't home from his job, and so it was a lot of like trying to juggle the house and the cooking and then starting a new business and the homeschool. And so that was a harder season. I know a lot of listeners are in that season, and that's, it's a different challenge and dynamic all on its own. So now my husband's been home from his job. We've done the business together for about 7 years. So we kind of tag team things, which makes it really, really nice. So in this exact season, I help with the little kids and then educating the older girls, and then he'll take the 4 boys, which works really well for us. I spend a lot of time in the kitchen with some of my kids, and that's, a lot of the education with them. It's so hard to describe because it's not like a regular school schedule where, we're doing
fluid.
math from this time to this time. There's some of that as well, but yeah, and then like now we're moving into summertime, and so we're spending more time outside, less time sitting there doing schoolwork, which we would do more in the wintertime. It's very, very flexible.
I've spent my whole life in the ocean, and I've learned, just like wearing a seatbelt or a helmet, safety matters. That's why my family and I use shark bands.
Shark Bands uses patented magnetic technology to deter sharks by disrupting their electroreception. Kind of like a bright light in their eyes that says, nope, not today, shark face. No batteries, no charging, just simple, effective peace of mind.
Whether we're surfing, swimming, or just splashing around, Shark Bands is our go-to for ocean safety.
You want to geek out on how it works? Dive into episode 14 for a deeper look at the tech.
And check the show notes for the link to Shark Bands, because your peace of mind in the ocean is worth it. Stay safe, stay stoked, and keep loving the ocean.
There's that quote, like, good things don't come easy. I feel like, homeschool kind of falls on that. It's a great thing, but, there's days it's not easy.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys balance like trying to figure out when to come inside and buckle down when it's almost always nice outside. Like that, that's it, that's a whole different dynamic. Because like we're coming out of it, at time of recording, like it being, like we've had so many days that you cannot go outside at all because it's just so cold. And so I can't imagine like it always being nice out.
Yeah, it is actually a struggle. Like you can see how tan I am because we just been trying hard at the beach, and it is hard to buckle down. And I've definitely developed the like play hard, work later mentality to life, which is a little dysfunctional, but I think at this season of children's lives, like they're thriving, and like
no, that's
I'm not too worried.
No, the boys are doing great. Yeah, they're awesome. Homesteading and sourdough baking, like doing home cooked stuff, is so good, like so valuable, but it's one of those things that it seems like a lot of work. But I do balance, like, family, homeschool. I'm doing amazing. I mean, I was just like flipping through your website, and I'm like, everything looks so delicious.
Okay, so the thing with cooking from scratch being hard is it's really only hard if it's the first time you've done it. So like think of something you make in your kitchen, you make it, it's like your go-to thing. Anytime you're not sure what to make, you just make that thing and it's no big deal. Yeah. If you have a few, like say sourdough bread's the thing, and you go on my website, I have every different kind of sourdough bread you could ever dream up, but in practicality, I don't make all of those all the time. Like I have a handful of things that I know completely without like looking at directions, looking at the recipe, I can whip it up in no time. And so really it's not hard because I know exactly how to do it and I don't have to second guess it at all. I'm not saying like it wasn't hard to get to the point where you feel that way about it, right. But once it's, second nature, it's really, it doesn't feel like a big chore.
What's your passion behind like doing that, behind baking that way, and what drives you?
Yeah. I mean, originally it was just wanting a quality bread to put on the table that wasn't well, and back when I started this, it wasn't like you couldn't go buy sourdough bread like you can now from a micro bakery, like at all. It didn't exist because I started doing sourdough back in 2010, 2011. But so it was to get a healthy product on the table inexpensively, and that was pretty much the only way to do it. I mean, and now I just like it. People always ask me, like, don't you get tired of making bread? And genuinely, no, I don't. I literally do not get tired of it.
Have you calculated the cost of one loaf of sourdough bread?
I am not a good budgeter. And the reason I say that it's hard to figure out, and I've never been a budgeter, but the reason is because, like, I get my raw milk, I get that on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays because the way the dairy farmer likes to do it. I just get a little bit of time all throughout the week.
Per gallon?
Oh, it's only $7 a gallon. So it's really cheap here. Yeah, and you can find, there's another farmer that does it for $6. I know some that do it for more, but the place I get it from currently is $7, and I get 8 gallons a week. So there's that, and then I get like my beef from my sister, so I get half a beef at a time. I get it in April and October. I pick up chicken from her. I pick up pork, usually a whole pig at a time. So I'm like, how do you even figure this out? Because I don't go like on a weekly grocery shop. I do that too, but that's in addition to the things that I've stocked at home. I get like my fats, like oils and things, usually in bulk. I'll get things like grains from Azure Standard. I'll get like a 50-pound bag. And so I have no idea how to calculate, but I'm sure it's a lot cheaper than you guys, what you're experiencing out there. I'm sure of that.
Yeah,
much.
so I guess you don't really budget, but you're buying a lot of things in bulk. And so that's one major way we can, cut some costs down. And that's so rad that your sister does meat. You said your sister's family does meat farming?
Yes. So it's very close, very local, very easily accessible for me to get it, which is great.
That's so cool.
So
Yeah,
good.
my brother is a dairy farmer, so we get fresh milk from him, and
That's
sometimes
awesome.
there's some perks. If he has excess milk, we'll get some bonus milk, and it's always just really nice.
Yeah, because milk's a constant need. Like meat, even if you don't know somebody who's a farmer, because I've been sourcing meat from local farms forever, like since I got married, pretty quickly after that. Even if you don't know somebody, it's not like you have to find this constant source. You have to find a handful of farmers, or maybe if they raise, the different meats that you want. And then you can go bulk stock up, so they can even be far away because you can take a trip, get it, bring it home. Whereas like with milk, it's pretty important to partner with someone locally because you have to get it on such a regular basis.
Yeah, it has to, you want it as fresh as possible. What's your
Yes.
philosophy? Like, a lot of people listening might not be interested in raw milk.
I have a bias about it. We actually had a dairy cow I milked for 3 years.
Nice.
I think that's accurate. And so I've just been around the process enough to be comfortable with it, which I think is kind of part of what makes someone more comfortable with something. But I'm of the belief that it has the reason why people can't digest milk is because of how it's been altered, and there's more nutrients, and so that's why we seek it out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, like, I see one of the biggest arguments is people are fearful. So I'm not totally sure where that fear is coming from.
I made these decisions literally 15 years ago. I read
Yeah.
the books, I read all the data, and I was like, I'm comfortable with this, and I think that it's a risk worth taking because of all the health benefits in it. And I've heard the argument over the years of it's just for dairy animal or baby mammals, basically. And I mean, just if you look at the nutritional profile, you look at the results, like I just have my own family's health to look at, which I know is just anecdotal, but it's been so great over the years. Like nobody's, and I'm not saying that any of this couldn't happen, but nobody struggled with allergies, or
That's
I'm not
amazing.
so sure it's true. It seems that people have good health when they consume these things, and so we'll definitely keep doing it. Nobody's going to convince me with we shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's just for
For a
baby
family of
animals.
11 to not have allergies or some sort of like eating challenges like that, that's huge. I think that's really rare nowadays.
I do think people go looking for them though. Like I think. So
Like almost like will it upon themselves.
well, and I'm not saying necessarily that, but like if we were to go to a natural doctor, we were to get our blood drawn, because I've seen so many people in my own personal circles go do that. There's always something they can't have anymore. And so I will say we just haven't done that. So
Yeah,
like,
Right.
true.
you know,
Well,
yeah.
like I kind of am a little sensitive with shrimp, for example, and it is like a clear, like I'll bust out a big red rash on my chin
Okay.
and neck. So,
Yeah.
but other than that, like I don't
Yeah.
worry about anything. And even then, like it's not like I'm gonna go into anaphylactic shock, which was really interesting.
Right.
We had a conversation with Fallon Day recently, and her son had like a ton of allergies, and he would have anaphylactic shock to a ton
wow.
of different foods. And she's been able to heal him through a similar diet as to
Through
what we're
eating,
talking
yep.
about right
Yep.
now, through more
Right.
holistic foods, like more traditional foods, whole animal eating, lots of, I think he's eating dairy now, whereas he used to not be able to eat dairy. And so there are a lot of stories out there of people shifting to this more, traditional style of eating. And the cool thing is,
man.
Lisa, like you're an incredible baker and you're doing all sourdough. And so a lot of people struggle with even grain. And that's also, I think, because we've pulled away from traditional styles of baking, and the food is all
Right.
has like added iron and added canola oil to the bread. And you're
Right.
like,
Yeah.
what even is this? This is so far gone from like good quality bread. And let alone, I forgot to mention what happens when you put the grain in the sourdough, it kind of ferments and it makes it more digestible, right?
Yeah, that's what happens. So it's meant to be a slow process, and then once we have instant yeast, it makes it a very fast process, and so that action can't happen on the grains. That happens through sourdough because it takes time for it to do its first rise, the bulk ferment, and then you divide it, you let it rise again. This all happens over either depending on how warm your house is, it can happen over 8 hours, it can happen over 36 hours. You can put it in cold ferment for, even longer than that. And so that slow process is actually what makes the grains more digestible. And then of course too, with all-purpose flour and not using the whole grain, a lot of that's been stripped away. And so I do think when people return to that more traditional preparation, we're not heating up our milk, we're not, pasteurizing it, we're not making fast bread that's been stripped of all of the nutrients that's in it. It seems like people can tolerate things better. And sometimes it takes a little while for us to heal our guts to get to that point.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's awesome. You've been on this intentional health journey for 15 plus years. And like, we've been on our own journey. I just remember like one thing that just like stuck out to me now is like thinking about baby food and like what we gave our first child, were like those food packets, and it had like, sweet potatoes and some bananas, and, like oatmeal was another big one. But I remember when we started, I forget which book it was, Deep Nutrition maybe.
Yeah.
And it was talking about like what baby food used to be like back in the 50s and 40s. And it was like
Right.
egg yolks and cod
Yeah.
liver and like good quality, like nutrient dense food.
Liver pates were very common too back more. And so
Yeah.
it was this more traditional style of food for these babies. And then you can look up Weston A. Price. He's a dentist. He's
Right.
a
That's
the
very
one,
famous
Weston A. Yeah, yeah.
dentist
Yeah.
who went and studied
Price.
all the tribes around the world who had beautiful mouth and jaw structures. And I think these tribes were all eating some sort of animal fat, maybe some dairy. But yeah, it's like you look at the health of our country and you have to ask questions, or else you're going to still eat the like sweet potato and banana, and your children are missing out on these deep needed nourishing nutrients. And you have to kind of like start asking questions so that you can better serve your family. So anyway, Lisa, is there anything else you want to share, like just encouragement to families?
I would say, because a lot of times people get overwhelmed with a lot of this, and I try to simplify it for them. Like, find one thing we talked about and maybe see how you could slowly implement it. One way that, because another thing too is people have a very packed schedule. And so usually it's like, well, how could I have time for this? And it's not that a lot of it's very time consuming, but it kind of does require being around home, just home-based, because there's like, you could start something in the morning and then visit it a little bit in the early afternoon, and then ultimately get it into the fridge for a second rise, or, whatever, for overnight. But it kind of does require a home-centered life to even provide a lot of this, to cook from scratch, even though it's not necessarily time consuming. Just being around home and focus on home has really helped for me to be able to accomplish a lot of this. But start small, start slow, get confident in one thing before moving on to another, and it really can be simplified.
Yeah, and I loved your tip earlier too. Like when you buy your meat in bulk, you're getting good quality meat and it's at a more affordable price. Our sponsor is also Amazing Good Ranchers. So if you can't find a local rancher, they have great quality meat from local American farmers. But that's something like our freezer is full of meat.
So we're stoked.
Yes.
We have our freezers like at least half full of bones right now. It's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
that's awesome.
Well, I just wanted to go back to the very beginning when you were saying like your children are a blessing and such like a beautiful mindset. Like the Lord has blessed us with such beautiful children, and like for those who are listening to have children or hoping to have children, like know that it's not, too overwhelming to like be intentional with how you raise them, and just like taking a deep breath and knowing that the Lord is with you. And, we're just thankful that, we can share inspiration, some like motivation, some great ideas from you, Lisa.
Taking the pressure off. It doesn't have to be so hard. Like everything,
Yeah.
I think people imagine just like people ask me questions and I'm like, oh, you think my life is so hard, and it's really not. Like we just have certain routines, certain things that we've gotten used to doing. It's not like I'm still stuck in the research phase of like, for example, raw milk. It's just something we get now. It's no big deal. I know the farmer. We get it throughout the week. We have like the scheduled times. The bread's just the same recipe I'm always making. I know what I do with babies. I think there's a certain level of confidence with all of that. And so it's not, once you get really used to it, it's just really not very difficult. It's not like overly time consuming.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thanks so much for jumping on with us, Lisa. We're cheering you and your family on, and thanks for your words of encouragement. And anyone who wants to dive into making your own homemade bread, Lisa has a ton of recipes on her website.
Yeah, farmhouseonboone.com. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Lisa. Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. I'm feeling ready to go make some sourdough. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing some like simple tips here at the end to really dive deep into being intentional with your family. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out the show notes. And while you're down there, please leave us a review, hit the like button. Anything helps us kind of get this pushed out there even more. Thank you so much for listening to All Things Possible. Till next time, aloha.
Aloha.